Statistically speaking, you're probably one of the 80% of Kiwis who have already tried recreational cannabis, but at the moment it's illegal to use in almost any form. However, come October 17, this all might change with the referendum. So to get some expert advice, I went and had a yarn with the person who knows more about this than pretty much anyone else in the country. It all kind of works as well.
Do you want a pillow for behind your bed?
Just a few minutes. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, kia ora whānau, my name's Chlöe Swarbrick. I am a Green Member of Parliament and our spokesperson on drug law reform. We're having a referendum because basically Parliament decided that it didn't want to pass this by itself.
This year we've got not one but two referendums. We've got the cannabis referendum and the end of life choice referendum. So that means when you go to vote, along with your party vote and your electorate vote, there's a party vote green flag in the back corner, you'll be asked, do you support the proposed cannabis legalization and control bill? You've got two options, you can tick yes or you can tick no. And I'm going to tell you why you should tick yes.
So yeah, what we're voting for at this referendum is whether we want the legislation to go to another stage. We will be voting on this 160 odd page bill. It's called a bill because it's not yet an act. An act is what happens when a draft law passes through in Parliament.
Not related to the party.
Yeah, not related to the party.
So I'm just going to read off the referendum's website exactly what's in the bill. You'll have to be 20 years old to be able to buy cannabis. You'd only be able to get it from a licensed shop, and there'd be a limit on how much you can buy in a day and the potency of it, so the strength of the cannabis that you can actually buy. It also says you'll be able to grow your own plants. You'll be able to have up to 2 plants per person at a maximum of 4 plants per household. There would also be a limit on how much cannabis could be sold at one time, and that's 14 grams of dried cannabis, or its equivalent in whatever other form, per day. You'd only be able to consume the cannabis in a private place or on licensed premises, so you could essentially have a sort of bar thing where you can smoke weed.
What this bill does is recognises that, like tobacco, like alcohol, cannabis can cause harm. It then seeks to implement a raft of different control mechanisms, including taking the supply chain away from the black market, which has absolutely no incentives to wrap around health and safety or education or, God forbid, decrease their customer base.
I think a lot of people still don't get the fact that, it's not a decision of whether or not people should smoke cannabis or not.
Yeah.
Because it's happening.
Yeah, totally. This referendum is not about whether you like cannabis, whether you use cannabis, whether you support cannabis. It's actually not about cannabis and cannabis use. It's about what kind of cannabis use and what kind of response we want to cannabis. This is the difference between a hypermedical model and a public health model. A hypermedical model would go, that thing is bad for you, particularly if used to excess or if used early, but a public health model goes, well, how do we stop people using it?
Yeah.
There will be the establishment of places where people can purchase cannabis, which aren't tinny houses. How cool is that? So they will look, just to try and give you a tangible example, way more discreet than a current adult shop looks. So, because people think of liquor stores and how anybody can walk into that, but it's not like that, because we've also banned sponsorship and advertising, which I would argue we should also do with alcohol. But, no other political party wants to be consistent in their approach to drugs. There's this really funny thing that happens where whenever I do any form of, media on this, I get a bunch of emails from people going, do you smoke cannabis? I'm like, no. And then there's people going, she's never seen the harm that cannabis can cause. I've recently been pretty dang open about the harm that I have seen cannabis causing, but it wasn't actually the cannabis inherently that caused that harm. It was our social and criminal responses to that cannabis.
Totally.
So, somebody who right now is experiencing problems with that substance is alienating and ostracizing themselves further because they don't particularly want to put their hand up and go, hey, I need help, if they risk going away in handcuffs.
Totally.
Or embarrassing their family, or all of those things.
There's a whole host of research that shows just how much safer cannabis is to use than things like alcohol.
You can go to the Prime Minister Chief Science Advisor's websites like pmcsa.govt.nz or co.nz, and Juliet Garrett and a bunch of experts have come together to package up an explanation of the research that we know about, what's happened elsewhere, what's happened here under cannabis prohibition, effectively, not offering a way that you should vote, but offering you all of the advice and the information that you need to make an informed vote. Yeah, it's very hard to come away looking at that and vote against change.
Yeah. So personally, I think a yes vote is just a bit of a no-brainer. It just makes so much sense. It reduces so much harm and it will make life better for so many people. And it's so important to remember that this is not a vote for whether you think cannabis is good or not. It's not a vote for whether you think that people should be using cannabis, because people are using cannabis. This is a vote of whether we're going to actually deal with the issue like we should. If you know someone who's on the fence or thinking about voting no, please send them this video, because it's so important, I think, to get this through, to get this passed. Thank you again so much for watching. If you've got any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. All my contact information is down in the description box below. But otherwise, there's the subscribe and things that will really help me out. That'd be amazing. But thank you so much. Have a beautiful day. Ka kite.